even if you think that you're dealing with a farmer or a tradesman or something, like that's a warrior culture, bar none. In the story, like the foundation of that entire region is conflict. Like there has
Mm,
been conflict there for centuries. So generations of people have grown up fighting, fighting every, you know, Alexander the Great to,
mhm.
whoever. That's the so and when you interact with those people and you see their faces and you see how they move, the calmness and like the energy is just way different. Um, it's completely different. Um, and
Mm.
you have to act and respect that to a certain extent because I mean, the moment you think you're dealing with some piddly farmer who knows nothing about how to move and how to operate a weapon system or how to, like, you're wrong. You were so wrong. Like that guy is, he may be 60 or 70 years old, but in his prime he was fighting against the Russians. So don't think that he doesn't know how to, close with and destroy just as well as you do, if not better, depending on how long you've been doing what you're doing.
Mm.
um he's old and doesn't, like, his priorities aren't that, and the fight's not in his front yard, so he doesn't feel compelled to do so. But make no mistake, he can still do it. You need to have, level set your expectations here, because these are not, it was like, oh, guys wearing man dresses and wearing flip-flops and like running around the mountains. Like some of them, okay,
Mhm.
but they can still shoot, and
Mhm.
they will shoot, and you know they don't care.
And they
So
chased the Soviets out
yeah,
after a decade. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Where were you most of the time in that tour in Afghanistan?
So we spent time in the southern Helmand province, and then right before Marja kicked off, we moved up north, right outside of Marja, for that invasion, um, and shot for. We were shooting supporting fires for 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, and for anyone else who was operating in Marja. And then the last place we were at for that deployment was a place called Edinburgh, FOB Edinburgh, and we took over from the Brits, from the British. It was a British artillery unit that we took over from, and then our counterparts, 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, they took over from a British unit. And that was up near Musakela and further up north. There's a lot more mountainous terrain. Um, Definitely a lot more fighting going on as well. Um,
Um, when you had been in Iraq and had been in some combat situations there. I mean, two tours in Iraq, combat experience in two tours, but then back stateside for a few years, and you're rising in rank as a Marine. What was your own thinking about going back into a conflict situation, combat situation in Afghanistan?
it was interesting because I kind of expected it,
Right.
but I was just kind of like, eventually it's probably gonna happen again. It was just kind of the climate and the nature of how things were during that time. I think from 2005 to 2008, I was an instructor at Security Forces in Chesapeake. So I was teaching marksmanship and, tactics and crew serve weapons. And I was using all the stuff that I had employed or used or learned, last two deployments, now teaching, and now from teaching experience, going back to the fleet, and able to teach for a pre-deployment or for, just more teaching, 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 and then now get, okay, well, now we're going to Afghanistan. And that was another interesting scenario too. Is like, all right, so what's our mission going to be? What are we going to be doing? Well, we don't know. We're going to take guns. We're going to fall in on guns. We don't know. And then a few months up to our leaving, you know, we figured out we were going to fall in on weapons and fall in on everything. Everything was already there. So, um, which is a little, unnerving because you're like, well, we don't know the condition of all this stuff. Like we're just expecting the worst, you know.
Mm.
But it wasn't that bad. But it was definitely. It's like, okay, well, again, in a leadership position, you have very few, if any, people have done deployment, deployed,
Right,
especially sergeants and corporals, like because at that point, Iraq deployments and stuff were kind of slowing down. But
right,
um,
right. So are you with artillery then?
yep. So I was with 3rd Battalion, 10th Marines. I was Kilo Battery, 3rd Battalion, 10th Marines.
Okay. So does that mean then you're not going out on patrols through villages and things like that? Are you pretty much staying on the outpost?
Yep. So we were staying on the cops or the fobs, manning our firing positions, doing supporting fires for the um, the infantry or whatever units there were, whether it be LAR, um, light armor reconnaissance guys or reconnaissance Marines, um, doing supporting fires for them.
Did you have problems with incoming rockets and
There were some instances where um, we were shot at or we would have received, but the interesting thing about that is um, once they figure out that your gun's bigger and that when you shoot back, it's a lot more accurate, that tends to stop pretty quick.
yeah, yeah.
So
Did you have any interaction with British forces when you were there?
we did. So when we did our turnover, it's probably about, I don't know, 6 weeks, a month long, something like that. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
extensive. So, and nothing stopped. So it was a very like, you know, hey, at this point,
Yeah,
they're going to come off of their guns and we're going to move our guns into place, which they had to get flown in. And we had to set everything up and then we're going to take over operate. So it was very phased, a phased operation, phased
yeah.
turnover.
But
But they were phenomenal, very proficient, extremely professional. Um, a great time, great group of war fighters for sure to be around.
yeah,
Sometimes, you would have to go out and do some sort of engagement where you go meet certain people or do when you're traveling from place to place or setting up outside. Like there were a couple of times we went outside the fob crop and we were doing fire support operations outside of the base. We were out in the middle of nowhere, so we would interact with just people traveling to and from, back and forth between place to place along convoy. If we were convoying from place to place, our interactions of people on vehicles or motorcycles or whatever it may be. But it was very limited, not close face to face stuff like it was in Iraq.
when you think about that tour in Afghanistan, I wonder, I'm sure there are obviously a lot of memories you have. I'm wondering if there are a couple that especially stand out in your memory.
It's kind of when you take over from another unit, you're waiting for your opportunity to prove your, like, hey, because everybody that you're supporting and everybody that you're working with outside of your unit is looking at you to fulfill your obligation and to do the thing that you're there to do, and they want to know how well you can do it, right?
Mm,
Um, so that whole deployment was like a slow progression of connectivity or connective. We were very kinetic and the last place we were at, but when we were Southern Helmand, Fob Payne. I think we were there for a couple months and didn't shoot very much. And then we went to Marja, shot more, and then we went to Edinburgh. It was like almost every day, every single day. We were just so I think that deployment when we were at Eddie Fob Edinburgh, supporting the Brits or supporting the infantrymen, it was once they got hit by IADs and their convoys would get hit and they would call us for either immediate suppression or smoke missions to screen their movement so they could, you know, evac their people. And the first time we got called, it was an immediate suppression, a 15-minute suppression. We had 4 guns, um, and they called it an immediate suppression mission. It was like a palm grove, like a grove of like heavy vegetated area they were getting mortared and getting shot at from. And we did 2 rounds at every mission from each gun. So that's 8 rounds every minute on the minute
wow.
for 15 minutes. And it was the battle damage assessment when they go in and they're like, hey, this is what's left. They're like, it's a mess. It's a mess. And from that point forward, it was like, all right, you guys got the the check of approval. Like, yep, you know what you're doing. We love you. Hey, we know we can call you and count on you in a pinch. Um, and our guys, they loved it. They were just like, yes, like this is what we train to do. This is why we do what we do, because we know those guys downrange are depending on us to save them or to help them get to what they're doing and achieve their mission. So
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, you have these guys who, get hit, get ambushed, get an ID, maybe somebody's maybe in danger of being overrun. They call it in,
mhm.
and you guys bail them out. That's got to be
Yep.
a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's a great feeling, and to know that our guys are they understand like again like looking at it from a as a leader, and you have like these four corporals, E4s or E5s that are anywhere from 20 to 19, 20 to 25 years old. Like this is a very it's a heavy situation, a lot of responsibility, because if you mess up and if you send something downrange that is not
Yeah,
the gun's not pointing in the direction it needs to be, and it's off like you know ever so slightly, like 1 mil is a meter at 1,000, so like it's
right,
compounding. So
right.
you could kill friendly people, friendly forces fairly simply. So it's a very serious situation. But these guys, they were good. They were very well trained. They were good at what they did. They took it and then they enjoyed it and they took a lot of pride in what they did. So
Wow.
and I love them all for it, and make sure I just encourage and tell them and say, look, listen, you guys are the best at what you do right now. You're not it doesn't get any better than this.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing, and you know I'm proud of you and everybody's proud of you. Keep
Wow.
pushing. So
So as the E6, are you kind of standing back and just watching the big picture and or are you
that's what I was
hands
supposed to be
on or
doing.
okay.
That's not at all what I was doing. So as the E6, like convoy security, convoy operations, the planning, the preparation, the training, um, security operation, like the security of our. So whenever we leave and we go out, like how to set up security perimeter, all of our tactics and techniques and procedures for what we do and how we set up our crew server, our machine guns and where we set them up and where every gun and every truck is positioned and entire position. That's all on me. You know, this is what happens if we get attacked, and this is what happens if we get attacked on a convoy, and this is how we fight. And controlling the fight in a convoy or in a defensive, you know, position, that's all on me. So I'm kind of like the tactical maestro, if you will, of the unit when we go out of the platoon. So if we're shooting and the guys are actively engaged in fire missions, I'm running ammo. I'm doing all the things like, I'm listening in to, hey, look, I got this. I need 5 fuses on gun four, or like I'm running fuses, I'm running primers, I'm helping run ammo, I'm doing whatever I need to do to make sure everything is supported and everything is running smoothly, um, and trying to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful, and that reverberates and will echo for the rest of my career. And a lot of that was it's like, okay, this is your first test as a senior enlisted or an enlisted Marine at that level,
Yeah.
encompassing in like what's it all about. That was that deployment.
Well, spell that out a little bit, like because as I'm listening to you talk, it sounds like this deployment in Afghanistan professionally, but then what I'm hearing more is personally, it seems like this is a much more meaningful deployment to you than the deployments to Iraq. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I refer to it as it was a culminating event of my career, being that the job that I was enlisted in the Marine Corps to do, that it doesn't get any better than that. Like that was the pivotal point, and then being able to look at it from a leadership perspective and looking back on it and saying, okay, I have this many Marines under my charge. Some are organic, some are not organic, but ultimately, like yeah, the battery commander and all the higher leadership, they would either be there or they'd be where the other platoon was at. They would kind of bounce back and forth, but
Mm,
ultimately those all guys, they were mine. So their
mm,
successes, their failures, the support that they needed, everything, like it was my job to fight, advocate, and make sure that they had all those things to be successful professionally and personally.
mm.
So knowing them, knowing everything about them, their personal lives, like taking that stuff, like learning how to do that effectively and with the administrative stuff, like completely, it's like, wow, like there's a lot to this.
So you're focused on this job. It's a very important job. Um, and I'm hearing that it's an exciting job, and I don't mean that in a trivial way. And
Mhm.
just men like hearing things go boom, but it's exciting because you know that you're saving other Marines. I mean, you're
Yeah.
helping other Marines, and it's really important. And this is consuming your time. Did it, I mean, did the bigger strategy or the bigger plan really ever even enter your mind? Like, we're in Afghanistan to help Afghanistan, become a somewhat reasonably functioning democracy. Did you even think about that at all, or is it just, day to day, I've got my job as a Marine and that's all I'm focused on. I'm not worried about the future of Afghanistan, really.
No, I mean, you always want to, I mean, I would assume the assumption is that you would always like to think that the work that you're doing is adding value and going towards the greater good of whatever that mission is or whatever that initiative is.
Yeah,
And I could reasonably see in my mind, like, okay, well, this makes sense to me. Like we're here because a lot of the people we're fighting were not Afghans. They were not organically from there. And if they were radicalized or they were basically bullied and threatened to a point where like, or misled to think that like we were, evil invaders. Like we don't even want to be here, dude. Like we don't want to be here any more than you want us here. But like you have all these other people coming from other countries just to get at us, and
right.
we don't want that for you. So help us help you. Let's kill them or get them out of here so we can all leave and you can have your country back. Like that was my mindset, and that was, you know, um, that kind of aligned to what I thought was going on or what I hoped was happening in
Yeah.
the geopolitical realm. But
Mm. So, y- your experience in Iraq, you say that, even when you're there, you're kind of having doubts about, what this is about in the big picture. But it sounds like in your mind, the Afghanistan fight made a lot more sense.
right, yeah. I mean, I think it did, and again, like I said, just because of maybe not the funding, but the people that were responsible for what we know or what we believe to be, um, you know, what happened on September 11th, those responsible came from there. So the
Yeah.
logic was that, why would we not bring the fight to them and do what we need to do to eradicate that threat and make sure that that doesn't happen again?